I gave trials to 3 different clubs, and fortunately 2 of them liked me. And then I went on to play with Tottenham for 2 seasons, which is 2 years. And then I switched clubs to Fulham, played with them for 1 season, and then I came back to India in 2016.
Hi guys, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Lalith Dhanush show. Today I have with me a very inspiring woman and her name is Tanvi. She's a footballer by profession and runs her own community called Sisters in Sweat, where she helps a lot of women take up sport as their weekly social activity. And if you are somebody who loves sport and want to enjoy sport with a bunch of women, this is the place for you. In this podcast, Tanvi talks about how she entered the English club Tottenham, and it is a very inspiring story for all the girls who want to pursue a career in sport and especially football as the main one. Watch this entire episode and I'm sure you'll be super inspired and charged up by the end of this episode knowing her story, which is super inspiring. Hi Tanvi, welcome to my show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward.
So Tanvi, I remember the first time I actually came across your profile on Instagram. It was because of your community, Sisters in Sweat, and I know someone from that community, and that was my LKG teacher, Anahita. And as I was going through her profile, I understood that she was a part of this community, and I was super inspired, and I decided to call you on this show. So tell us about what you do with that community.
So the community that you're talking about is Sisters in Sweat.
Mm-hmm.
It started when I moved to Bangalore, which was in 2017. And a friend of mine, so I got to know her through Nike. Her name's Shweta Subaya. She's a Nike certified fitness trainer. And she introduced me to one of her friends and at like a night out. And you know, this friend Shonali is a huge socialite, and she just needs any reason to like make something happen. So when Shweta introduced me as a footballer, immediately Shonali was excited and said, hey, why don't you and Shweta do like a fitness-based football session for me and my friends? And bear in mind, this was again at a night out where she was already, you know, a few drinks down. So we didn't know to take her seriously or what. But we still, anyways, we entertained the idea. And we booked a small 5-a-side ground and didn't expect anything. We thought Shonali and maybe 2-3 of her friends will turn up. It'll be a one-time fun session and over and done with. But 17 women turned up for that very first session just to learn and play football. And we basically designed it in such a way that it was an hour and a half. First half an hour, Shweta, being a fitness trainer, she basically, you know, got their bodies ready because these women were already around 35 years old or older. So, you know, they either hadn't played sport in a while or were playing for the first time or whatever. So Shweta for the first half an hour made sure that the warm-up was good, their body was ready for sport. And then I sort of handled basic drills, football drills with them, and then we finished with a nice 20-25 minute game, 5 versus 5. And yeah, they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And obviously we had music playing and everything, so it was a full experience. So they came to us then and said that, why don't you do this for us on a weekly basis?
Wow.
And that's really how it grew. So for the first 2 years, in fact, Shweta and I pretty much just did it, you know, just enough. We were just covering rent, basically doing it just for fun, making this community grow organically, everything. And then we obviously recognized that at that point, the community had already reached 500 women with no spend on marketing, nothing. It was just by word of mouth. And all we were doing with these football-based fitness sessions for them, and the community was growing. So we saw potential and we sort of incorporated ourselves as, you know, a partnership as a company, and more recently as a company, and now we offer different sports. We offer different experiences to the women, but it is a women's community because we recognize that there's a huge gap in the market there. And yeah, and now it is what it is. We're at over 2,000 women across the country.
Wow.
And Anahita actually was one of our first few members. If I'm not wrong, she was there for that very first session that I just spoke about.
Okay.
Or at least in the next few. So she's definitely been there and seen our journey, and I think she is actually one of the women that you can say is very true to the personality that we have in our community. She's a mom, she's a teacher, she's very cool, she's outgoing. So yeah, I mean, I think she's like the perfect person that could have introduced you to the community.
Wow. I think it's quite inspiring because I myself, I'm a part of multiple communities, be it in business, be it in communication, which I thoroughly enjoy. But one thing I realize is, irrespective of where you are, a community is a place where you can actually grow holistically, right? And I, for one, have also understood that in your community, you just don't focus on sport, but you also focus on giving different experiences, and how each member of that community can get all their possibly skills or multiple things fulfilled. Now, you also spoke about how you guys are doing a small little gig in multiple places. You're doing like a pizza making session and all of this. Talk about a little more of these fun activities that you do, because I'm sure a lot of women watching would definitely want to be a part of your community.
So, so Shweta being into fitness, myself being a footballer, that's really how it started. And a lot of the women would come and tell us things about, very personal things about how they have grown as people, or that the respect from their family has grown having seen them play sport. Or that, some of them having kids grow up and then seeing their mum lace boots Sunday morning to kick a football. Like, it's a different world that they're growing up in, So they would come and tell us these really groundbreaking stories and how their confidence has grown, how, they're more comfortable being themselves, just little things like that. And that really is when we understood that this was so much beyond just a sport. It was so much beyond that 1.5 hours of fun on the field, and they were really taking home so much more, right? So we understood that what we were doing was not just providing a sporting activity. It was nurturing in many ways, and it was going much beyond the field. And so we came up with a tagline at that point for Sisters in Sweat, and that was that we're a community exclusively for women, by women, stitched together by sport and wellness. So the wellness aspect we added in immediately when we recognize all these things, because that brings the holistic aspect to it. It sort of comes into the mental health part also. It comes into your emotional health and goes beyond sports. So when we recognized that it was everything we were doing was actually contributing to other parts of their life as well, is when we sort of started thinking about doing activities like when we went into the pandemic, for example, we started virtual sessions. We wanted to keep the community that we had built for so many years engaged still. And we would do like online workshops. We had a laughter therapy session. We had a few art therapy sessions. Again, this is all mental health space. This is all the emotional health space. So we started offering all this because we actually cared about the happiness of the members that we have. Sure, sport was the way that we introduced, ourselves to that, that part of, the community and things like that. But we really wanted it to be like, in any way that we can contribute to their happiness, really, and their growth and positivity in their life. We were thinking in that direction then, which is why the word wellness is very important to us.
And I know when you're talking about this growth and journey, I want to know how you actually got onto this path of soccer, and how did it all start? Was this something that you started off while you were younger? Tell me more.
Okay, so I'm from Delhi, born in Punjab, brought up in Delhi. So I've done all my schooling and undergraduation, everything in Delhi itself. And I've pretty much always been sporty. I have an older brother. He's 1.5 years older than me, also very athletic, very fit, very sporty. So he was a huge influence for me growing up. And I was always a tomboy. I used to always want to do what my brother was doing. I used to hang out with him and his guy friends. So yeah, when I used to see them play cricket or basketball or anything, I wanted to do it too. And I wanted to be as good as them. So that's really how it started, very young, because I was very naturally sporty and athletic, and obviously my brother's presence helped a lot with that. But I think probably the age of 8 is when I was introduced to football. And my school, Vasant Valley in Delhi, was the first school in Delhi to start a girls' team. So I was very lucky to be in the right school at the right time. I started off with the boys because we didn't have enough girls that were interested in playing. And it was very hard to like scramble together 11 girls to play. But slowly we built a team, and because we were the first team in Delhi that was playing, we actually represented the under 14 state team. Was basically the Vasant Valley team. So that was my first, I think this was 2002, I must have been 12 years old, is when 12 or 13, representing the under 14 Delhi team. We went to Tamil Nadu to play the nationals. We got our asses absolutely thrashed because we had no experience at all. But that's really when I sort of figured that, okay, fine, there is a path here. Whatever, it might be a very broken path, but it's there. Because, we got our asses kicked. There were like so many states that were playing. And there is somewhere to go. There is a lot of room for improvement. And the thing is that when I used to pick up sport very easily. I was very naturally athletic. But when I played football for the first time, there was a very special connection. And there was a lot of happiness attached to it. And I just knew one way or another I was going to go down this path. I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know if I'd be successful. I didn't know if there was a future. I didn't care. I just wanted to keep playing and see what I could do. So even if it meant that I played with the boys, in fact, when I realized that I really enjoyed the sport and I wanted to take it up seriously a little bit more, we went and we looked for an academy. I must have been 14. And my mom and I literally went from like college, after school hours basically, we went and we looked for academies where we could play. And we finally found one, which basically was a boys' academy, but there were just a handful of girls as well. So I joined that. The coach was Chibur sir, and his younger daughter now is playing for the national team.
Wow.
So yeah, we all trained together. So so I just went and I basically just wanted to play. And whatever opportunity I would get, I would take it up, whether it meant playing for the state, whether it meant playing for school, college. I went to GMC after school, then Delhi University, played with the guys in a lot of tournaments, played with the girls in a lot of local five-a-side tournaments, whatever I could just to stay connected to the sport. And then finally, I wanted to do my master's in England. So once I finished college in Delhi, I did my research, obviously, wanted to make sure that the university that I pick also has a good football team. So I don't know if we should get into this because it's a very long and complicated story, but basically I have a British citizenship. Mm-hmm. I'm Indian, born in India, brought up in India, but I have a British citizenship. So in 2009, I was actually called for the under-19 India team, the India camp. But after being there for like a month in Gwalior is where the camp was, and I was doing very well, and there was obviously shortlisting, and I was making it through the lists. Then finally at the end of 1 month, they said that sorry, because of your citizenship, you can't go on to play for India. Mm-hmm. And this was in 2009. And this is just when I, maybe my first or second year of college at that point. So I was anyways going to go and, study my master's abroad. So I wasn't discouraged by this because I just wanted to play. And I was getting to play locally, and I knew that I was going to get to go and do my master's in England and play there as well. So I went to Exeter University then finally in England, where I did international management. I wanted to do sports management, but I settled for international management and played for the university team there. And that was really my first exposure to English women's football and the structure and the professionalism and the infrastructure and everything. And obviously it was far superior to anything I had experienced. And I knew that if I wanted to grow, given that I can't go on to play in India for India, if I wanted to continue to grow, I would have to, stay in England and make use of my citizenship and really expose myself to that level. So once I finished my master's, I went back to Delhi and I approached my coach Chibur sir, and obviously I sat with my dad as well. And I had heard that a few of the clubs in London have open trials. So, and I emailed them to find out what the exact dates were. So once I had the dates, once I had the vision that I want to go and at least give it a shot and see how far I can get, and you know, and I just told Chibur, so there are these few months, this is the date. I really want to give it a shot, and fortunately Chibur sir literally treated me like a daughter, always did, and he always had a lot of faith in me, and so did my dad. And yeah, for the next like 6 months, I didn't have a social life. I was basically just training and sleeping and eating and training and sleeping and eating. And then this was July of 2000.
Was it here?
The training was here.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just knew the dates of the open trials in London. And so yeah, we were just training towards those dates with absolutely no guarantee that I'll actually get in or anything. But yeah, we just trained, and then I landed up 4 trials in London. I remember, in fact, I was on my own. I didn't go with anybody, so it was just my backpack and me. And I was there with a bunch of other women, girls. And I was already 23 at that time. So this was 2013. Yeah, I was there amongst like a crowd of girls, and I gave trials for 3 different clubs, and fortunately 2 of them liked me. And yeah, and then I went on to play with Tottenham for 2 seasons, which is 2 years, and then I switched clubs to Fulham, played with them for 1 season, and then I came back to India in 2016.
How was the experience, man? Like, you did tell me about the infrastructure and everything, but for an Indian girl to be in a different place, away from home, away from comfort zone, of course, what were the kind of emotions you were going through? Did you feel homesick? How did you manage your food? How did all of that go about?
Having been home for most of my life, in a very sheltered environment, you can say, it was definitely a huge change for me, but that happened when I went to university itself, right? When I went to Exeter University, that 1 year anyways I was away from home. Nice. And I was playing football and stuff. So I did get a bit of that experience already. And I missed, in fact, one of the reasons I ended up coming back as well, where I could have stayed on, is because I did miss India a lot. And I feel like in my very core, I am very Indian, very desi. I like the fact that we can do jugaad over here and get anything done and stuff. You know, over there is a long process and things. So yeah, I definitely missed home. And also there was a big cultural difference. Me being Punjabi, me coming from a very expressive household actually, where jappiyan, pappiyan is just very normal, you know, saying I love you all the time is very normal. But for most of, and I don't want to be I don't want to generalize in any way, but in many ways the English are not necessarily like that, you know, and they're completely new to me. So for me to actually break the ice and also make a lot of friends in the team and stuff took a lot of time. You know, so all I could do was just really focus on the fact that I was there to play. And that's also what gave me a lot of joy. So to just sort of extract the joy from the playing aspect of it. And then eventually people did start becoming familiar with me and stuff, but it was a process. I'm not a very extroverted person, so it doesn't come naturally to me. It definitely took an effort, and one that I was willing to make because I was looking to stay there and get better at the sport and stuff. So.
And I think when you're passionate at something, you don't mind the sacrifice, right? Like, you don't mind letting go of a few of your things, or maybe even your comfort zone at a large extent. Tanvi, so I am not a very big football fan, to be honest, but I definitely do appreciate the sport a lot because it's so much of physical endurance, your thinking, coordination, and understanding the game. I think I have a high level of respect. A lot of my friends from college love football. Like, they go gaga about football, just like any other football fan would. Now that you've played in a league of its own in England, and now you've also played in India at the national level, tell me about the little bit of difference that you see in terms, you did speak about the infrastructure, but what is the difference that you see in terms of the whole culture by itself? Is there any difference, or what would you want to change about it?
The biggest difference that obviously created that gap between me and the other players was that they had been training every year for 10 months of the year. Their season lasts 10 months every year minimum. which means they play a match every weekend or at least once a week, and they train through the week. Now you can imagine in the 2 or 3 years that I was there, I got 30 months of football. And that was more than I got collectively in the 23 years of my existence at that point, coming from India. So I think the biggest thing is that there's no continuity here. There's no consistency. There's 1 month of competition and then nothing for a while, and then maybe another month of competition, nothing for a while. So there's no consistency, and even if you play for the national team over here, the number of months that you're consistently in that level or playing competitively is maximum 4 or 5 months. Okay. Which is not sufficient. It really isn't if you really want to be amongst the cream in the world. So I think that's been the biggest challenge now that I've come back, and even when I used to play here earlier, as well as all my peers that are going through, is that we just finished, for example, we finished our Super League 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, and now there's nothing. There's really nothing happening for us. So now it's our responsibility to go and make sure that we, do our strength training, that we go train with somebody, maybe join some boys team or something, whatever it is, but we need to stay competitive on our own.
And I think that's also because the bigger system is not in place, right? Like the bigger picture is not in place. So at least you get yourself right. You get your system going, because whatever at a larger level doesn't function, you can at least put yourself in the best position possible, best shape possible for the best outcome possible. Correct. So moving on, Tanvi, I want to know, I know you've been a fan of the game, and that's the only way you can pursue it on a career level. Who are some of your role models in terms of sport and women? Who are your role models? Who do you look up to?
So, when I started playing, there was no coverage of women's football. I had no idea who the female athletes, female footballers were around the world, let alone in India. So I didn't have a female role model to look up to. So for me, it was honestly just the boys that I was playing with. Those are the people that I looked up to, and the ones that were my competition and that I wanted to be as good as them, if not better. So that's really how it always was for me. That it was the guys really that I sort of looked up to, and I want to be as athletic as them, as good as them, and things like that. Obviously, now that we have access to so much information, now we have access to the kind of players and achievements that they have across the world. I have an endless list. and the thing about me is that I appreciate little things about everybody. I don't think there's one person I want to model myself after, or any one person's career that I would want to model myself after. I think I appreciate little things about different players, and even if it's just a personality trait. One of the most common questions asked of a footballer is Messi or Ronaldo, right? And for me, I always say that it's both of them, because they're both such different people, they're such different players. And if I was able to imbibe the best of both, if I had, the physicality of Ronaldo and the power that he does with his shots and his, even his experience, and then I have the sort of dribbling aspect that Messi has, and the wisdom that he has on the field. Can you imagine how lethal I would be if I was a combination of Messi and Ronaldo? Yeah. So for me, I don't choose between players, and I have a lot of players I look up to.
Apart from these two, if you had to pick, okay, I'm not going to make you pick one, but let's say top 3. Apart from Messi and Ronaldo, because that's like literally everybody's favorite. Yeah. Let's leave them both. They're kings, they're legends by their own right. Apart from that, 3 people, if you had to pick, who'd play with you. Okay, now I'll make it interesting. Yeah. Let's say you're on a 5-on-5 game, okay? Yeah. Let's say the other side are the best possible 5 in the world. Okay. Who would you pick your 4 teammates to be?
Ooh, okay, fine. So other 4 players, okay? I'm going to choose in goal our national team player Aditi, because I played with her. And Aditi is our national team goalkeeper here in India. So I'd put her in goal. I have a lot of faith in her. I really like Tobin Heath, who is from the US women's national team. Very technical, very fucking technical. Sorry. I really like her. I would love for her to be in the midfield with me. And then there's a player called Kim Little. I don't think she's not famous enough, but she deserves a world of fame because I've seen her play live. I think currently she's playing for Arsenal women. She's little, like her name says, Kim Little. Again, very good, great finisher, very experienced. I want her on my team for sure. That's 3 already. 4th one. Okay, we have a defender in our team. She's also the captain of the national team, Asha Lata. I'd like her to be in defense. So yeah.
And I think your story is so inspiring at many levels because it's not easy for a 23-year-old to just leave not knowing whether you're going to get selected. Because today, an Indian girl from any household, from any caste, religion, is always, I feel, looked upon one level lower in terms of sport,
Right.
which I definitely think is changing and over time. But what do you think are some of the challenges that an Indian household girl would face, especially if she wanted to pursue a career in sport? What are some of the things that you've seen? Maybe if not for yourself and your friends, what are some of the challenges and how can you give me a couple of suggestions as to how you can overcome that?
So I definitely feel there are a lot of challenges. Anyways, if you look, even if an Indian boy today was to tell his dad that, hey, I want to become a footballer, definitely, like, I think the dad will have some apprehension because it's not necessarily seen as a very lucrative sport to choose in India.
Yeah.
Maybe cricket, maybe now a bit of
Kabaddi.
badminton, tennis, kabaddi, there you go. Okay, football, still there is quite a bit of struggle even for a boy.
Correct.
For a girl, it's so much harder. You know, we come from a very conservative society. I mean, there are villages where shorts are not allowed to be worn because your knees are showing. You know, so there's so many barriers to get through. For me, I'll talk about my personal experience. When I sat down, I told you I sat down with my dad, right? When I finally came back from my master's, I sat down with my dad, I sat down with my coach, and I said that this is what I want to do. I've heard that there are some open trials that happen, and my dad instantly said yes. Yes, beta,
Wow.
I'm with you. And I asked him, I said that how come? Because, you know, I'm a Punjabi girl. It's not very often that a parent is immediately that supportive, right? I asked him why he was being that way, and he simply said that he saw the hard work that I was putting in. He saw the fact that by the time he woke up in the morning, I had already returned from my morning training. You know, he saw the work that I was putting in, and so he, obviously, his faith in me and my talent was there because of the work he saw. So one of the things I would definitely say is show your plan, show your effort, show the fact that you're actually in this to win this. And eventually, being a parent, they will give in or they will sort of support you because they see the effort you're putting in. Now, of course, I do come from well-off background. I do come from a comfortable background. Perhaps not all parents, Indian parents, think that way or would feel that way even if they saw their child work hard. So the only thing I would say is that do sort of find a balance between satisfying your parents' wishes for yourself and also sort of being true to your passion. So you just need to understand how to create that balance. And sure, there are some compromises that you will have to make on the way, but if you really truly want to get better at the sport, you will find a way.
True.
You'll find a way to wake up before the sun's up and do your bit of training if you have to, you know. And that's really how success stories come about, with sacrifice. And there's not a single success story that has existed on this planet without challenges on its way.
Absolutely.
Right? So these just happen to be our challenges, you know, being Indian kids or whatever. But that way you can always find reasons and always find excuses and things. But yeah, just find a way. There always is. There always is. And we all, in this generation, has so much access to information. They have so much access to upskilling themselves on their own. Go on YouTube, find out how you can do individual training at home. There's so much you can do. So yeah, at this point, it's really all in your hands.
It's incredible to watch somebody like you go through such an inspiring journey, because I truly feel in this country we need more women to pick up sport, because it's not just at fitness but it's also at a very inspirational level, because more number of women picking up sport means more number of women getting away from all the bad things, from getting away from the very possibility of opportunity. I think opportunity just sprouts up, just like how you have your community where one woman led to another bunch of women playing the sport. Now you have a community that self-sustains. I think we need more communities. I must say, I truly appreciate the work that you're doing. It's fantastic, it's inspiring, and I really hope that women around my community and the people I know, especially a lot of students where I teach, definitely pick up this wonderful sport, or beat any sport, and pursue their passion and become super successful. One last question before I leave you.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Sounds like a job interview question, but I'm still going to go with that.
I would hope I'm still playing. I'm 31, so I'll be 36 at that time. Fortunately, I think I'm in good shape. So I'm still one of the fittest players in my team. So I'm hoping by 36, I don't have to retire, and I still have a few more years to go. So still playing for the state, for club, or whatever level I can. And of course, I would love for Sisters in Sweat to reach many pockets of India, because accessibility to sport after a certain age for women is a big challenge, and we want to be able to provide that, because like you said, it breaks down so many more barriers, for women. So definitely would like Sisters in Sweat to reach nationally many pockets, many women, many more women, and really make a difference in their lives as well. And yeah, I hope that I end my football career also on a high, and I'm able to inspire other girls to take it up and really have a future in the sport.
Awesome. Thank you, Tanvi, for coming on to my show. It's been a pleasure to host you, and I really hope this podcast serves its purpose in inspiring a lot more women just like you, and I hope India as a country will benefit from it.
I hope so. I hope they do, and I'm sure they will.